All right, greetings everybody, and welcome to week number 4. That is right, week number 4 of your 9410 class, which is your cultural heritage class. As always, I'm your professor, Dr. J.S.K. Austin, and again, this week we will keep it on the shorter side yet again, because there really isn't, again, that much that I necessarily want to talk about to augment the reading material for the week. So we're going to do a state of the course update, and then yes, I am going to talk about the topic at hand, which is tangible cultural heritage. I'm going to talk about it a little bit, but mostly I'm going to say that I'm hoping that the readings are starting to actually just, kind of come together, make sense in the other concepts that I might have talked about elsewhere outside of the readings. But I'm hoping that things are starting to come together to a point now where you're starting to understand cultural heritage, where you're starting to understand that there are different types of cultural heritage, but that all of these types of cultural heritage do in fact work together to create a unique identity for a community. And for example, I'm going to use this as a very crude example, but where I'm from, Soul City, North Carolina, in that same county, there is a town called Ridgeway, North Carolina. And Ridgeway is famous for their cantaloupes. Ridgeway was built on some sort of, I don't know exactly what it is. I don't necessarily know the science of it, even though I've been told before what the science of it is. But Ridgeway is on some sort of fault or some sort of, Ridgeway is on some sort of thing. Okay. But the thing that Ridgeway is on, what happened was people were always growing cantaloupes. Well, not always, but for decades and decades, people were growing cantaloupes in Warren County, North Carolina. And when they started growing cantaloupes in Ridgeway, the cantaloupes tasted better. So they realized that the cantaloupes in Ridgeway were, because of where they were being planted, they were sweeter because they didn't have as much water content. So wherever the cantaloupes were being planted, the water was, they were not able to absorb as much water as a cantaloupe would typically absorb. Now, the reason that I just told you about Ridgeway and cantaloupes and everything is because there probably are other towns in the United States that also center their identity on cantaloupes, right? Ridgeway is probably not the only place that does that. However, when you have cultural heritage, you're not relying on just one thing. And that's one of the things that I want to kind of bring home. So I'm kind of going against the order, because I'm getting into all this before I even get into the into the state of the course update. But I do want to go ahead and make this point. So there could be other towns that have their identity kind of centered on cantaloupes as a food thing, right? For cultural heritage. But then you can, there are other aspects of Ridgeway that will differentiate Ridgeway from those other places to give Ridgeway their unique identity. But then those other places, they could have cantaloupe as a main part of their identity too. But if they've got other things going on, then all of these things just then start to combine and become that place's identity. And that's how you can create a unique identity. And another thing that I will say is that I actually like to steal a quote. So there was a professor at Coastal Carolina University where I used to work. There was a professor named Wink Prince. And Wink Prince, one of his quotes was, one of his big quotes that he's known for is, quote unquote, "All history is local history somewhere, and no history properly understood has merely local significance." So that's a quote from a history professor, or a former history professor, now retired, Dr. Wink Prince. Now, I actually steal that quote, and I like to just replace history with cultural heritage, because I'm a firm believer in that. I would say that all cultural heritage, or almost all cultural heritage, I shouldn't say all, but almost all cultural heritage is local cultural heritage somewhere. And no cultural heritage, properly understood, has merely local significance. So I would say, though, that when you allow all of these cultural heritages to combine, that exist in one community, that's how you get a community that has its distinct identity, its distinct flavor, and so forth and so on. And then from there, you can, that's when communities develop reputations. Oh yeah, go to that town because blah, blah, blah. Don't go to that town because, hey, and you build on that and you build on that. But I would also, again, say I would say that there's more than just local significance with any cultural heritage as well. First of all, tourism. I really do like, not everyone likes when cultural heritage is commodified as into tourism, but I like that because it is education. You do educate people when they come into your community, into your culture, and learn about the community, learn about the culture. They're becoming educated. And if something about your local hometown is impressive to a tourist, then what that means is that there is more than just local, in my opinion, that there's more than just local significance with that cultural heritage. Okay, so that's pretty much how I look at it. That's the angle that I take with that. But let's go ahead, and I spent 6 minutes talking about that. Let's get into a state of the course update, and then I'm going to come back to this again. But I'm still going to try to keep this under 20 minutes. I hope I do. Also, you all know that you can speed me up. Okay, so when it comes to state of the course updates, here's what we've got going. I don't know what just happened there. When it comes to the state of the course updates, you do have, first and foremost, an assignment that is due this weekend. So your first paper, which is not the four heritages paper. That's not it. That's not until later. Your first paper, which is the hold on. Okay, that's better. That's what I wanted. Your first paper, which is the visit to the cultural heritage site or resource write-up and reflection. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a site that you visit. You can go somewhere and look at a cultural heritage artifact or something like that as well. So I'm pretty flexible, and if you want my help or have a question, just ask me. Just email me or message me and ask, and I'll take care of that. But this is due this coming Sunday. I am expecting proper APA, and when I say I am expecting proper APA, one thing that does mean, you all, is that if I am asking you to use a citation style, then that means that I am expecting you to cite sources, okay? So you're in grad school. I do not want you to come to me and write up these papers that don't cite sources, okay? When you're in grad school, you're building upon knowledge and you're building upon information and scholarship that's already out there, as well as maybe also challenging opinions or assertions, okay? So you've got this due. You've also got your discussion prompt due for week 4 that'll be due on Sunday as well. Now, as far as other assignments, you will see the midterm quiz is coming up. We're actually not going to be midway through the course when you take the midterm quiz. The midterm quiz is actually, maybe I should push that back. In fact, I'm going to let you all decide if you want me to push the midterm. If you want me to push the midterm quiz back to the 26th, I'm willing to do that. You just need to let me know. In fact, scratch all that. I'm going to push it back. So I'm announcing that I'm pushing back the midterm quiz to the 26th. It might be just a little too early for you all to have to do that. So I'm going to push that back, but it will be coming up. And then also, you do need to be aware that on February the 22nd, you do have the first sync session. And that's going to be, Josh is going to be coming. Let me pause so I can pull that up. Okay, yeah, my apologies for that. But yeah, I did want to pause just to kind of pull that up. So, yes, this will be on February 22nd, our first sync session. This will be our speaker, Dr. Jeff Shepard of the University of Colorado at Boulder. He's been involved with the Library of Congress Sound Submissions Project, and it is very, very interesting. So when you talk about careers that you might want to pursue in cultural heritage outside of like just being librarian or archivist or museum curator, these are some of the things that you can try to get into. These jobs are a little bit on the rare side, but that doesn't mean they are not out there if you look hard enough. So in fact, if you are looking to do cultural heritage work that isn't necessarily archives or librarianship or being a museum curator, that might be even a question that you might want to ask Dr. Shepard at his presentation, is how did he get into this type of work, and then what are some similar things that other people can do if they are interested in cultural heritage work, but want to do something different than the standard library and archivist museum curator type work. So because he knows people who work in cultural heritage but do things outside of those things, and so he might have some ideas of how you can break into that. Okay, so we have that coming up, And that, I think, is pretty much it for State of the Course updates. Remember, you do have to do your APA correctly. And if you are unsure as to whether or not you can do APA correctly, I strongly recommend that you look at that week 3 check-in video, because I do talk about APA there. All right, let's get back into the class. And excuse me. So I've already talked a bit about how cultural heritage things come together, and together they do this sort of I guess what you could call placemaking, or this idea of turning a place into a place. So making something that exists as a piece of land into more than just a piece of land. Now you've got people, and you've got landscape heritage, and you've got all these things going on, and maybe you have certain animals and biodiversity and all of this stuff that comes in, and everything comes in to make this place unique. And so what I want you all to just be mindful of, or to be thinking about as you proceed through this course, is I do want you all to not just look at the big thing that your community is known for on the cultural heritage front. I want you to, now that you've only got 2 more modules of this intro stuff left, which is the tangible this week and intangible cultural heritage next week, now that you've only got those 2 things going on as far as intro material, and then we'll break up into some more specified things that might be more fun. What I want you all to do is just think about the fact that it takes more than one cultural heritage to actually make a place really have an identity. And so I want you to think not just of the big cultural heritage thing wherever you're from or wherever you live, but I want you to think about how all of it is coming together. And it can come together on different levels because you have different levels of communities. So St. Louis can be a community, but then also Missouri can be a community, and then also the United States can be a community. So I would say that these things go at different levels. So if we're looking at St. Louis as a place, a specific place of cultural heritage, a lot of people, when you ask them about cultural heritage in St. Louis, they're going to go right to the Arch. That's what they're going to think of first. And what you got to do is you got to say, yeah, it's the Arch, but it's so much more. It's the Arch, but it's also the blues tradition, but it's also Nelly, but it's also toasted ravioli, and, whatever other things that St. Louis is known for, and all these things kind of come together and create a unique identity. And then you can back that out, make a less precise community and a more broad community, and that community could be Missouri. And so you can say, okay, what makes Missouri a community, and what are the cultural heritages associated with that? And then you get into, Missouri does have a very strong barbecue culture here, just a very strong barbecue culture here, not just in Kansas City, but throughout the state, actually. So you can get into, Missouri barbecue, and then you can start talking about other things that the Show Me State might be known for. The motto itself, Show Me State. There's definitely some heritage surrounding that. And then you can talk about, I don't know. I haven't lived in Missouri to really know, long enough to really know what the heritage things are that really get people going. But if you are from Missouri, you probably know. And then if not, you probably know from your state that you grew up in, at least. I could tell you, in North Carolina, I could go on all day. I can talk about barbecue in Carolina, and then follow that up with talking about the NASCAR tradition, and then follow that up by and Richard Petty, who's from North Carolina, and then I could follow that up with something else like college basketball, which is a very, very big deal in in North Carolina. College basketball is a very big deal. And then I could come right back out with something else, the tobacco tradition in North Carolina. And I could talk about First in Flight. And I could go on and on and on. You all get the picture. I can't do that with Missouri because I'm not from here, but I can do it from my home state. But you all can probably do it for your home state if your home state is Missouri. So I want you all, now that we're almost out of the introductory course material, I want you all to really see how that should be coming together to allow you to say, okay, I'm in a place. Now, if I want to, and you can Google this term, placemaking, Place, M-A-K-I-N-G, place making. And you can talk about, okay, placemaking. I already know about, I already know about these things when it comes to placemaking and how all these things come together to create a unique place, but that I call home. But what are some other things that I might not have thought of as much? And then if you get into digging around in local history at your local public library, there are probably some things you can unearth. You can probably, if your family has been in the place for generations, like my family has, where we're from, then you can tap your family for information as well, and so forth and so on. And there's so many possibilities, y'all, and it's all just beautiful to me. Anyway, okay, so that is the word that I have right there, and I did keep this under 20 minutes. Once we get out of the introductory material, these probably are going to go over 20 minutes. So again, I hope that you all will be speeding these up, because I will be talking a lot. That's what I do. But also, these are optional, but they are a lot more bearable if you speed them up. So with that said, I am going to end it here before we get to 17 minutes. I am Dr. Jace, and in this class, you are in fact making a place. Let's do it. I'll talk to you all next week.